At the VA Northern California healthcare system, we help thousands of patients every day. Each patient has their own special story, and every once in a while, there's a story that's so inspiring and heartfelt that it must be shared. This is that story.
We have 2 adult daughters and 4 grandchildren. One daughter and her family lives here in Sacramento, and the other daughter and her family lives in Hawaii.
Jean and I have been married for 45 and a half years. And like you said, we have our 2 daughters and our 4 grandchildren that occupy a lot of our times. I have worked in EMT for a while, and right now I'm full-time caregiver, and it's a great profession. I love it.
I joined the Air Force in 1965 and spent most of my training time down in Mississippi at Keesler Air Force Base, and was trained in electronic equipment repair. And was stationed in Sacramento at McClellan Air Force Base, and that's where I met my wife. And then I was transferred to the Philippines, where I spent most of my time in the service at Clark Air Base in the Philippines and on the island of Luzon. I got out of the military October of 1968. I had 2 years of active reserve, and then in 1971 we entered civilian life totally. We have had quite a few occupations since then, and then I retired in 2008 September, and have been enjoying my retirement since.
Jean and Charlene soon came to realize that their retirement years were going to take on a different perspective than they had planned. And it was going to include a new group of friends and extended family.
I started using the VA in the year 2000. And it was right after I had kidney cancer. And I was not in VA at that time, and had a kidney removed. And then when I was introduced into the VA system, we noticed over a period of time that my PSA levels were rising above the point where the doctor started getting concerned that I might be courting some cancer.
I met Gene Wetmore and his wife Charlene about 3 years ago in my clinic. He was recently diagnosed with prostate cancer, and I was the physician who was going to describe to him what type of cancer it was and how far spread it was and what treatment options we had to decide upon. What struck me most immediately when I actually saw him was that he said, "Doc, I know what you're going to tell me, and I probably already have an answer, but I want to hear what you want to say first." And I actually asked him why he asked me that question, and he basically told me that he valued my opinion, but he wanted to hear my thoughts to see if it mixed or meshed with his own thoughts. So I told him basically that he has a diagnosis of prostate cancer, that he had the most advanced stage of prostate cancer. He had stage 4, and that the prostate cancer was not curable.
Okay, well, when we first heard that diagnosis, obviously, like everybody else's world, when you hear that cancer, things kind of stop. Things that used to mean a whole lot didn't quite mean as much. And a lot of the repeat memories of when Jean had gone through the kidney cancer and all of that, we were now facing another crisis in our lives. The first thing we did was really tap into one another, tap into our faith. We had a lot of support from our family, which was fantastic, in helping us make some decisions, because those were obviously in front of us at this time. And we had to determine what were we going to do with this news. This was a little different than the kidney cancer that he had had, and so it was going to require that we made some very serious life changes and a lot of big decisions that were obviously going to affect us for a good while.
When the diagnosis was given to us and we had to start thinking about how we were going to respond to this, I realized that, we are not only physical, but we're emotional beings and we're spiritual beings, and all that has to be considered when we're faced with a short lifespan. I've seen many of my friends go through what I'm going through, and some had taken chemotherapy and the hormone therapy and all the radiation and medications that were available, and which arrested their cancer for a period of time. And then when it came back, it came back strong, and they ended up passing on. And so we had decided that quantity of life to us was not as important as quality.
Well, when we were faced with this decision of what to do, we were presented with many options of the hormone therapy, the radiation and surgery and all. And as we examined each one of them, we began to evaluate how they would impact us and our quality of life. And we came to the decision that we wanted the greatest quality so that we could share the most in the best way.
And so we chose not to have anything but a little bit of radiation.
Watching others go through the typical cancer treatments helped Jean and Charlene make a decision for a less invasive route. They shared their observations and their decision with their medical team.
But him telling me that story gave me a different perspective that we can value other things and that our treatment planning should take into account those other values. And so the discussion that pursued after that was basically us going back and forth, trying to decide how best to care for him if his choice was to not pursue those therapies that would interfere with his life. And I asked them, what bothers you the most with this particular cancer diagnosis? Is it a physical thing? Is it a spiritual thing? Is it a psychological thing? And I told him that instead of focusing on the cancer itself, we can focus on those three aspects and still care for him. And so our treatment plan was basically around how best we can make him feel better. And so we instituted treatment plans that approached his or addressed his pain. We recommended that he be enrolled into a hospice program so that he can have access to chaplains who can address his spiritual concerns, that he can have access to social workers that can address his psychosocial concerns. And we started to pull together a plan that surrounded a team around him, both within the VA and amongst his providers at home, that could care for all his needs. And so over the next several months to a year, we put together this plan that he saw us on a regular basis. We made sure that his pain, his fatigue, his nausea was well controlled. And we touched base with his team, his chaplains, his social workers, to ensure that they were addressing his needs.
It's interesting to understand that dying is part of the process of living that we all are going to experience. And when that happens, it's always going to be stressful. It's always unwanted. And I want to stress the fact that when we are faced with death, we many times tend to draw back within our own shell and become retrospective. And that's the very time that we need to reach out and hold on to those things that are important to us, our relationship.
One thing that really came to me that I kind of smiled about is almost 46 years ago, Gene and I were standing in front of this minister saying, you know, through sickness and in health, the rich or poor, through all of these things, till death do us part, all of a sudden became the immediate, and we were now living out that vow that we had made to one another that many years ago. And it was kind of a profound realization to me. And it changed how we managed to interact with one another, and it changed how we savored the moment and how we approached this, because this was a vow that we would stay together in heart and in person, keeping that vow. And we were talking just yesterday about the joy of the fact that this isn't a choice he's making. He's not leaving us by choice. He's being taken, and we can either look at all the wonderful times that we've had, or we can become angry at what we will not have in the future. So we've spent, like I say, a lot of times with family and friends, and we're very open. We've had a lot of people ask us questions about our spirit of joy. I mean, today is a day we've got with each other, and that's the most important thing. And the laughter, he's really a fun guy to be with.
We found that we wanted to find those things that we enjoyed and do those things together. Day trips in the car together. Find ourselves in a park walking around, and anything that could pull us together and help us enjoy one another, so that we won't sense that we have missed anything. We don't.
So, true to the plan, the VA staff supported Gene and Charlene so that they could enjoy each other and their family. And there was an unexpected return. The Wetmores supported and encouraged their caregivers as well.
This experience with this organization has been nothing but positive. And the quality of the doctors, the quality of the nursing staff has been beyond my wildest expectations. We have never been disappointed. But we've chosen also to be thankful. We've chosen to encourage those that are serving us. We've made the decision to lift them up, to let them know that we appreciate what they're doing
It makes a difference
for us. And it's amazing how much of a difference that is.
We've had so much fun with meeting so many people. There hasn't been a technician or a receptionist or a doctor or anything that we haven't been able to just connect with by taking a little bit of time to get to know them. It seems like they just, I don't know, they just flood so many good things onto us. Anytime we've had an immediate need, they've been right there. We were in not so long ago, and Gene had sepsis, and it was just a very stressful time. And a doctor that we had seen several times came up beside me, put her arm around me, and said, "I got your guy covered." And it was just like, oh my goodness, that was so fantastic, wasn't it? And they acted so quickly. And
one thing that happened in that visit also was this gal. I guess she was a student or an aide. Just showed up and put a warm blanket around me, and showed me so much kindness. I was really stressed and in distress. I almost died with that sepsis infection. And I felt like I was being touched by an angel, and come to find out her name was Angela. What a wonderful experience. But
taking this approach with patients in order to spend time getting to know them and getting to know their values does take a little bit extra time to do. But I think the rewards are significant. The rewards are great. What happened with Gene was basically he was able to obtain a life expectancy similar to what would have happened if we were on treatment, and yet he didn't experience any of the side effects and was able to really enjoy his life, to connect with his wife, and to connect with his spirituality.
And it's interesting, after 3 years from the time we got the diagnosis, the doctors have indicated that that decision that we made brought us to just about the same place as those that chose to go with medication. And that was good to hear, because you always have questions. Was it the right decision? It was good for us that we made that decision. And we have had a good quality of life in the past 3 years.
And I think that's what the VA is about, that we are a family here, whether it's the providers or the staff or the volunteers or the patients. We always treat each other as one big happy family, that we all look out for each other, that we make sure that each one of us is cared for, especially the patients.
Because the medical staff respected Jean and Charlene's choice for less treatment, they were able to enjoy family and friends that gathered around to support them.
I think the best thing that I can say is our faith has been so huge, because we have drawn so close together. In fact, we were great before, but it seems like the best time has been since we have pulled our hearts together and made some choices. And if I had anything to share with anybody about going through this, it would be just make good choices. Choices to be lighthearted, and choices to be positive, choices to be content, choices to
Thankful.
Choices to be thankful and patient with one another, and to focus in on the blessings. We have so many blessings in the midst of this. We've had fantastic doctors. We've had fantastic friends and family, and just securing ourselves with the confidence that this is something that God has allowed to come into our lives for a purpose, and we just don't want to miss any of those things. And so we've had a good time focusing in on that each and every day, and bringing our friends and family into that same privilege.
In my own specialty, in the world of oncology or cancer care, we develop such a close relationship with our patients that we consider them family, and that when somebody no longer sees us anymore, it's almost as if a piece of us has left. I'm going to miss them.
God has prepared a way not only for us to go through this time of goodbyes and releasing, but He's also given some hope for the tomorrows, and that's the important thing. Choosing not to be angry. Yes, there's a tremendous amount of disappointment and just ripping my heart out to have to say goodbye and release. But I'm also so thankful for the time that we've had to. In fact, we made a decision. He was talking about, he says, I just have such a hard time thinking about saying goodbye. And I couldn't wrap my head around that one. And so I said, I can't really do that. So I have to come up with something different. And so I literally prayed about it. I said, I just need something. And I got the thought of, I can say thank you, and we can say thank you to each other. So we began, every time we would think about the sorrow of being separated, we just were able to say thank you.
As time comes close here to the end for me, I just want to express how important it is for me to have the strong support of my wife and my family. It's been hard for the kids to go through this. I'm their dad and grandfather. As we think about saying goodbye to one another, I know we wanted to just say thank you, but there was a quote by Winnie the Pooh, I think it was, and it was that I want to be loved and love somebody so much that it's hard to say goodbye. And that was kind of cute, but it's it's important, I think, that love be a very strong factor in our goodbyes.